I wasn't really gonna say anything about this topic, but I saw so many different Pokemon creators acknowledging it that I feel like in order to be a real PokeTuber, I have to do it, even if I'm a little bit too late to the party. A while ago, 2 years actually, Gamefreak announced Project Bloom, a new action-adventure game they were developing and basically didn't say anything for the last 2 years. I actually checked on it from time to time, it looked interesting, but since there was nothing about it, I just forgot that it existed basically. Then, earlier this week, they finally revealed Beast of Reincarnation. And well, hey, I'm not so a strainer, and I do not want Pokemon to look like that. Let's get into it. Beast of Reincarnation takes place in post-apocalyptic Japan, and it honestly looks pretty cool. The combat is fast-paced, the little world building we saw so far has me intrigued, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of interesting lore associated with the game. It's a shame the game isn't announced for the Switch 2, but I'm hoping it eventually is announced for it before its release in 2026. Also pretty interesting that we're getting Emma back in Z-A, then Emma is also the name of the main character for Beast of Reincarnation. Fun stuff. That should end there though, but then people started asking for Pokemon to look like that, or asking why Game Freak can make that but can't make Pokemon run well. This is the part where I thought to myself, I don't want Pokemon to look like Beast of Reincarnation. I really don't. I do want you to like, subscribe and join the channel though. But yeah, it feels like this comparison to other franchises comes to the surface for a little air every now and again, and it always surprises me. I really don't get it. Before I continue though, do you think this more realistic art style would fit Pokemon? Let me know down below. A while ago it was Xenoblade, and now it's Beast of Reincarnation, but it was done to Monster Hunter Rise as well when it came out on the Switch and many others before. If it was done to Monster Hunter Stories, I'd be like, yeah, I can see the vision, but not this. Pokemon were never designed for a more realistic approach, and that's why so many people were a bit bothered by how Pokemon looked on Detective Pikachu the movie, for example. Pokemon do not fit this art direction, they simply don't. I can't imagine many people looking at something like this old image of realistic Pokemon and being like, yep, that's what I want for my Pokemon game. What makes this case worse and worth talking about or complaining about is Beast of Reincarnation being a Game Freak game. It looks so detailed, so pretty and so modern on this trailer that people, especially after having Scarlet and Violet fixed after 3 years of it not running that well, but still having to look at the not so great textures, are putting both in the same basket. Still, both games are completely different in just about everything. The art direction is clearly not the same for the Pokemon franchise and its new IP, with very different target audiences in mind. It also comes out for just about everything but the Nintendo Switch family of systems, when Pokemon only comes out for the Nintendo console. Yes, the Nintendo Switch 2 is a lot more powerful than the OG Switch, but we haven't had a single Pokemon game made exclusively for it. We did have though the enhanced edition for Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet, and it runs pretty much flawlessly. And in this performance department is where I think a lot of people close their eyes for some portions of this new trailer. While I'm very interested in Beast of Reincarnation, as it really looks like my kind of game, it was far from running smoothly during the reveal trailer. Yes, the game likely gets a little better until release, but it probably doesn't get a lot better. We do know Game Freak after all. Still, the big questions remained. Why does Game Freak put so much effort into this and not Pokemon? Why can they do this for Beast of Reincarnation but not do it for Pokemon? Well, first, they were probably not under any weird time constraint because the game is not published by Nintendo, and they do not have the wheel of a huge franchise to keep on turning. And also, and that is the most important part, while the game is developed by Game Freak, it is done through the Gears Project Initiative, which is basically an idea incubator for new IPs that are suggested by Game Freak employees, and that has nothing to do with Pokemon or the people developing Pokemon per se. They have done this before, it's not the first time. They've done it recently with Little Town Hero on the Nintendo Switch, for example, which ultimately flopped really hard and didn't get the best reviews from both players and critics. So there's a chance that this one flops as well, because what you see is not everything there is to a game. The gameplay is very important, and we cannot forget that while many people online are saying they should do this for Pokemon, why doesn't Pokemon look like that? Those people are not gonna buy the new Beast of Reincarnation game, are they? Yeah, exactly. It's a constant cycle of why not this and why not that. People want it super realistic, but they also want Pokemon to go 2D again. They want more time between releases, but they also get mad that we didn't get a new trailer for so long. It literally took them 2 years since announcing Project Bloom and the first trailer coming out. The typical online Pokemon fan would go mad if that happened to Pokemon, just as it happened with Z-A. It's basically impossible to make anyone happy online, but there's one thing I'm sure of, and that's that if Pokemon ever goes the super realistic route, the franchise is doomed, as it will lose a lot of its appeal, not only the game itself, but the Pokemon themselves. Beast of Reincarnation looks fine for what it is, not for what Pokemon is. The only way I can even agree is if we're simply talking about the detail in the environments or something like that, but that can be applied to literally any art style, not just the modern one. I have said this before and I'm saying it again, I think we're entering a golden era for Pokemon. Z-A is very likely the first game we're getting that wasn't at all developed during the pandemic, or no part of it was developed during the pandemic, if we take the usual 3 to 4 years for Pokemon development as fact. The most recent example of a Pokemon game is the Switch 2 edition of Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet, and it's running pretty much perfectly. And Pokémon Legends Z-A also has the Switch 2 edition, likely going to run at 60 FPS as well, and its environments are way more detailed than Scarlet and Violet's. I'm not saying the Switch 2 fixed everything, because there are a lot of problems with Pokemon that are not performance or graphics related. But I do believe there's a lot less to complain about now than there was before. Still, does it matter for people online? It really doesn't, as long as there is like something to compare Pokemon to. At least compare the game to Dragon Quest XI, for example. Those two art styles do fit a lot better together than Pokemon and Beast of Reincarnation. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. But before I go, I want to thank my Twitch subscribers and newbies here, and the Dr. Joe, and my YouTube members Dash Plays and Gatsy for going that extra mile. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much.